My guest this week is David Mersky. David is an attorney and CEO of Sabonic, and he also has his own YouTube channel called The Mirror Sky. And it was about 6 weeks ago that David reached out to me, kind of like a cold call email, stating what his purpose was in this area of, say, spirituality, self-development, self-growth, and was looking for platforms to come onto. And I thought, hey, cool, if somebody's going to ask me to be on the show, I'm honored to have him. So David, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Really, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, like I was just saying earlier, didn't have a ton of time to get some background on you, but I did see a few interviews with you, and you had just interviewed with Billy Carson, and you were talking about what Sabonic was, and you gave a bit of your own personal background, and that's what I really love to dig into, people's own personal stories with spirit and how they're growing themselves. But why don't you give us that kind of story of how you evolved? I thought it was interesting. You were in law. And then you come into this spiritual realm where things are not so grounded and practical. So let's hear your story.
For sure. And it wasn't planned that way, which is how a lot of people today are experiencing their own awakening. And similar to mine, it can happen in a way that is very unexpected and out of left field because I'm not somebody who had any experience with psychedelics or really any drugs for that matter. And I consider the psychedelics to be plant medicine, so I don't love the term drugs, but they are considered drugs today, so we kind of have to use these labels. But that's not the space that I came from. I was, a litigation attorney from New York, so completely out, just this is life, and this is sort of how the awakening happens. But
Hmm.
law was as a litigator, I did a lot of trial work, and it was not very early on. I knew that that was really not my calling. It was really more of a job, and I had gone to law school, and my wife is an attorney also. So we got out after school, we start practicing, and that's what you do, kind of do the responsible thing. And I was following in lockstep with what I thought society really demanded of me, and took the actions that I thought were the right things to do. Now, having the ability to look back on it, I probably would have gone through life a little differently and made some different choices. But that's what we're here to do and to learn. So it wasn't until a very traumatic experience that involved law, actually, which is interesting, that led me ultimately to psychedelics, although that wasn't planned either. But I by the time I got out of law, I had an opportunity to go into business, and I moved my young growing family and wife out from New York to Arizona. And then this is 2006, and started a new business with some family, and things were going really, really well. And then we got sued for $79 million.
Wow.
And so I had a chance to be involved in a very high stakes litigation, but as a client this time. And I'm beginning to kind of talk about the particulars of that. It's a very long, sort of crazy story that deserves kind of its own time. So I'm addressing it because it's very relevant to my plant medicine experiences, but it's a whole journey unto itself.
Yeah.
Suffice it to say that I had a drag out fight with the state of Arizona for over 6 years before they finally relented and said, we're going to dismiss this $79 million lawsuit, and you can walk away, and you agree not to sue us, and we'll agree to go away. And ultimately, and sort of uneventfully, that's how it ended in the summer of 2016, almost, around almost 10 years now. However, that process was absolutely debilitating. I was in a fight or flight war zone type situation, not knowing what was happening next, not knowing every day I woke up was going to be a completely unexpected, maybe nightmare. And that experience, when you live in that kind of situation day in and day out, never really leaves you. So although it resolved favorably to me, I was left completely battle worn, battle weary, and scarred. And those scars, continue. You walk around and figure out how to integrate that into your life going forward. But needless to say, I was filled with anger to the point that you can't even describe. I mean, bitterness and hatred, some very ugly things. Natural to a large extent. These are, we're humans. We go through these experiences, and these are the kind of visceral reactions that we have. But I didn't realize how painful that it was, and how much damage it continued to cause me. And I didn't even know that I needed a way out from it. But luckily, and I don't believe, given my experiences now, that there are coincidences. So fortunately, I had a couple of friends who had been investigating ayahuasca. And out of our group of friends, there are only going to be a couple of people that might be into these kind of things. And again, it wasn't my space. I never had these experiences before. So why I agreed to look into this is still a mystery to me.
Mhm.
But it's the most fortunate thing that ever happened to me, and has now put me on the path that I'm on, which is why I say I don't believe it was a coincidence. I believe these paths are laid out for us, although I think we do have free choice and free will. But, things that are set out for us, I think we somehow, one way or another, are confronted with in life, and we make a decision. Do we want to go down this road or not? And this is how life sort of unfolds. So in 2017, we did ayahuasca in the desert in Tucson.
And this is you and a couple friends?
Me and a couple of friends, and there are about 15 people that are in this group that were going to sit with the medicine out in the desert, really in the middle of nothing. And so we did our research to figure out what was the experience going to be like, what we could expect, physically, what we thought was going to happen. I had no frame of reference, which is probably good.
Yeah.
And and then we just went for it. And but the preparation for that was really important. There's a diet to get your body clean, to get your body right, so that the medicine can have the best effect for you, and then to have a purposed intention. What am I looking for to get out of the experience? What do I hope to get from it? And to sort of maintain that purpose. And I think with regard to ayahuasca, that process starts when you commit to the ceremony, which was probably almost 2 months out from that point. And so I really wanted to focus on getting rid of this anger and this hatred that I had for these people. And lo and behold, and fortunately, that really was the experience that I had. And so in the experience, people hear that, you throw up and everything, which is true, and I did. And I've had subsequent experiences that were also similar. But that process is a cleansing for the body, of course. It's probably the best detox you could ever have. But spiritually, you are getting rid of poison and allowing new things to come in that can take you to new places and make room for more positive energies. So I recall kind of feeling that nauseous kind of feeling, and then it all kind of came up. But then after that, I felt elation and just ready for this experience. And this was my first psychedelic experience of any kind. So I had no expectations. And I was confronted with these two people that were sort of the face of the opposition, and whom I developed this hatred for. But instead of the normal hate that I had been so accustomed to, I came face to face with these two people, almost like the three of us, like almost like head to head. Three of us together, literally like inches apart, almost like touching that. And this is like a visualization that I have. And in this process, I was able to step outside of my body in terms of what I identified as me, and it was somewhat of an expanded version of me. And I was able to have this like extrasensory perception where I was able to see and feel what was going on with these other people. And I immediately realized that they were suffering some extreme pain as well. And I had the conclusion then that it was only because of the pain they were experiencing that could have put them in a position to cause me such pain. But instead of feeling the normal anger that I've had developed for years, I had this overwhelming sense of compassion. Compassion for these people as individuals, knowing that they were humans also, and that they were going through their own life experiences. And I no longer cared about what was happening to me. I just was able to sit and feel their pain, and then was able to communicate to them that thankfully now I'm finally strong. I have weathered this. I have come through it. I feel compassion for you for the pain you're going through. And I wish them the ability to feel what I was now learning, uh, and that they could hopefully learn that. And that I no longer needed to carry this burden, which is what it was. Anger is a burden that is poison for the self and for the individual, which refers to that old saying that if you go about seeking revenge, dig two graves, one for yourself. And I realized instantly that that's what was happening. And the psychedelic process is one that allows you to make these conclusions so easily because I had been living with this anger. It had become such a part of me for so long, but I had this just realization that it no longer served me and I could put it down. And I'm so grateful for that experience because it allowed me then to integrate that into my life. And I think my subsequent experiences were also thematic in the sense that I can label this one, this is the tool that I gained from this, and here's the lesson that I learned from this experience. And there are different medicines, not always ayahuasca. And so there's some common threads that run through the psychedelic journey. And so I've been able then since then to slowly, it took place over years, but to then integrate that into my current path and into my current business with Sabonic so that I can get this message out, talk to people and say there is a way to be happier and improve our lives and understand what we really are as human beings and how awesome this opportunity to live on earth is, as trying as it can be sometimes, but that this is a place of learning. And I've been able to assemble this kind of knowledge set and toolbox, and I'm now on the mission to get this message out to help as many people as I can.
Wow. So
In short, that's the short answer.
no, I loved it. You were given then with your ayahuasca journey the golden lesson. That's when I listen to near-death experiences, and I love to have those people on too.
Mhm.
It was like you were given the life review. I'm sure you're familiar with the near-death experience. When they have the life review, you see those experiences from the other person's perspective, and what a perfect teaching tool. And
Yeah,
you just said, we're down here on this earth as humans incarnating to learn lessons, and we learn through contrast. So these things that we call bad, like the trial, the lawsuit you were going through, I'm sure there was plenty of bad and that anger that it led you to. It would be, undesirable, but that's how we learn down here as humans. But if we were always in that state that you were in, and that the life review state, it's like there'd be no point of having the human experience anymore because it just, you know what I mean? It's like it'd
it's
be null and
exactly right.
what's the point? It's such a profound, perfect teaching tool. And you're the first person I've heard specifically that to me got the golden lesson. I mean, that's what I've had one ayahuasca experience, and it was
Oh,
profound. It was. I will probably go back, but nothing like that. Um, in fact, I was just been thinking lately because I've been studying A Course in Miracles, and it's very much aligned with what you're talking about as well, in terms of when you finally integrate these things and you can interface with people and life in a way that you're more willing to forgive and see things from the other's perspective so easily. They're just, everybody's just a perfect baby that was born and they just had a bunch of crap laid on them, and nobody sets out to be an asshole,
yeah.
so. it's easy to forgive once you've learned and integrated these things. But
Yeah,
since that lately, I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know if I need to go back and do ayahuasca. And I don't feel that people need it. It's not like the only way, but it is a great shake up. It can definitely illuminate some things, and you can, give you lessons that you could integrate for years, and you may never need to go back again. And it's not the only thing, but it definitely is a valuable and worthwhile thing to anybody who's called to do it. And
yes.
I feel like we kind of jumped right into it, but so how does this experience relate to Sabonic? Um,
So I took over Sabonic, which was in a different business. It was in cannabis advertising. It's a public company on the OTC market. So these companies never really die. They just kind of need to find new management, new operations. But they offer so much opportunity for capital raising and financing because it provides investors with a very easy exit. So that's always the difficulty when you're looking to raise capital or start a business is where am I going to get the money from? Why are these people, whoever that is, whether it's individuals or funds or banks, why are they going to give me this money? And then the question is always, how are they going to reap the benefits and get out? It's always about the exit. So unlike a private company, investors in a public company get shares, and at a certain point, they're able to sell those shares on the open market whenever they want. And so whatever the price of that stock is, they can make a decision to hit a button, sell their stock, all in the best of circumstances, and then get out. So as a vehicle, it offers a lot of advantages, and that attracted me to it a lot. And I was able to use my law experience, although my experience was not in securities law at all. I was really a litigator, but practicing for 10 years, I know my way around the law and I can figure things out. Of course, I have securities counsel. So I jumped into this opportunity. Having said that, the company was not in good shape. The financials weren't done. It had a lot to be desired, right, in terms of that vehicle. But I was in a situation coming out of this years long nightmare scenario that I was looking for like any opportunity. And I was like on the outskirts, maybe trying to pick through trash cans for anything to do because I was so devastated by that in every way, possible. Financially devastated. I mean, 7-figure legal fees. I'm just no. I couldn't pay bills sometimes. So I was living in that situation, and I then looked at this opportunity differently than I might have, and others probably did who wouldn't want to be involved in a company that hadn't reported in its financials in a long time. It didn't have capital. It didn't, and it needed a whole new reboot. But I was rebooting my life. So then we were kind of a good match. And I had recently done that with another public company. So these things came to me out of the sky. Having no experience in the public markets, I took over 2 companies in 6 months. I have now exited that first one and successfully now. And Sabonic is my baby, where I evolved that concept over the next few years in the cannabis space, supplement manufacturing, and then ultimately through a variety of synchronicities to get into the consciousness space and start to explore consciousness and psychedelics as a key component to that. And I was one of the 2 friends that I did ayahuasca with back in 17 became life partners with my now partner in the business in Starwalker Cafe, William Henry, who hosts Ancient Aliens on the History
yeah.
Channel. So we came together through my friend, through her, which again is also not a coincidence. And so I'm very thankful for how that unfolded. And so we're basically trying to take the message of ancient aliens now. Who are we? Where did these ancient civilizations come from? What are our origins? And what is our tie to other civilizations around the world? And then what is the greater question of consciousness and how our physical beings connect to our spiritual beings, how they're tied together, and how we identify ourselves by these two somewhat conflicting things on the surface. I'm a physical body here, but I'm also this spiritual essence. And how do those things work together? And to explore those things. And so now providing education through the Starwalker Cafe, and finally being able to offer plant medicine journeys for people who are called and who want to experience these things for themselves. And we are in a psychedelic renaissance now, so the laws are now changing favorably with us, so that medicines are becoming more accessible both here in the States and abroad. And so now my mission is to offer these wonderful experiences and change people's lives.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And you're right about or at least I believe you're right, and I think a lot of other people do too, that there are no coincidences, and these synchronicities line up perfectly for the time, for the space you are in your life. I mean, you were primed and ready for something like Sabonic and I guess the other business that you'd taken on and left, and it was ready for you. And I love that it just gives me hope when I'm thinking that a lawyer, because the stereotypes about lawyers is getting into this realm, and essentially it sounds like Sabonic has the same goal mission statement that I had for the show, which is just to be one more, and that's why the show's called One More Voice, to help move this ascension idea along. That I always talk about a morphogenic field story that I heard about, in which we're all linked through this morphogenic field, and the more people that are aware of a certain thing or are learning a certain thing, the more people learn that thing, like that phenomenon of the 4 minute mile, in which they thought it was a barrier that couldn't be broken, but once it was broken and people knew it was possible, so many others did it. And as every individual raises their consciousness through whatever means, and psychedelics and plant medicine is a, like I said, a very effective way to do that. The more people that do that, the more we can change the course of where history seems to be heading.
yeah.
So meeting you and hearing your message and things like that gives me great hope, and I think it does give others too.
Yeah, good, good. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. There is a This ascension process is ongoing. We have no timeline on it, and I'm sure that we're not going to live to see the full end of this thing, and there isn't a full end of it. So I'm just concerned with doing my part now, and the way to expand this message, because you and I are just individual little single points of light, but together as a collective is how the consciousness will be raised. And so getting out on platforms like this and on your show, thankfully, I've had the opportunity to be able to continue to tell this story, and now people will start to hear it, and then we'll start to feel the calling.
Mhm.
I was told actually that there was a significant part of the collective that was awakened in 2017 when I first did Aya. And I've
Really?
heard from subsequent people, completely unrelated, that, oh, 2017 was my time too, and I know about 2017. And I had never heard about this before. So I find that very interesting as well. But we are going to get to that proverbial tipping point where enough people will be thinking along these lines positively, and the vibration of the planet, which is a living thing and is
Yes.
moving and evolving with us, uh, will get to the point where I don't know what that, where that evolutionary process takes us, but there are a lot of people talking about the separation of the Earth into the new Earth and into the 5D. So I can't I can't speak to
Mhm.
that, by fact or anything. I just
Right.
know that I know what feels right and that I'm doing what I was called to do.
Exactly. And that's what I keep hearing. I don't look for it. Just like I never intended to have so many guests come on here and talk about plant medicines. My friends early on were joking, like, "Oh, you have a drug podcast," just joking. But
Yeah.
I'm like, no. And then so I'm thinking it's not a coincidence, especially if it's a situation like where you reach out to me. I mean, I wasn't even looking. And of course, your message is affiliated with plant medicine. So I take that seriously, and I'm thinking I need to push that out. And I think that is an important part of the ascension process, because it is coming from the earth and it has been around for so long. But another thing that I don't try to see or find is, like, all over the place, I'm seeing people talk about this. idea that not that their lives are falling apart, but their hearts are just out of the career or the job or the whatever occupation they're in, and they're looking to find their path. And a lot of them have found their path, and it's just like that's another thing that gives me hope. I feel like that'd be a natural consequence of the frequency of humanity raising, of an awakening, of a thinning of the veil, however you want to put it, that the light switches are flicking on. I know we like to toss around that word light workers. Well, I feel everyone's a light worker. We're all intended to, we are light. So, of course, let's turn the light on. Our lights have been dimmed, I believe, intentionally by highly conscious beings, whether they're human or not. I like that you brought up aliens because I haven't on the show yet, and I just feel like you can't get into these discussions about consciousness without bringing that up. It's all related. Plant medicines, we'll call them non-human intelligences or aliens,
Yeah,
uh, the near-death experience, all that. It's consciousness is the common thread through all of them, and that's
no
another thing
doubt.
that comes up.
Yeah, and I to bring it back into the legal context, part of my message on the legal front is that I believe we have a constitutional right to our consciousness, to
Yes.
the use of our consciousness, which first requires that we recognize that there is a consciousness that is separate and distinct from the human body. And that takes a little bit of a leap, understanding and acknowledging that we are spirit bodies and energetic beings having a human experience for a very purposeful reason, but that's not who we are. And that's not where we're going. And that's, in when we leave this earth, we don't just die. And I've
Yeah.
had wonderful experiences where I have seen where we go. And of course, I see that in the context of what I was taught, in whatever your upbringing is, you bring certain views to an experience. And when you're in this psychedelic journey, people don't realize that your consciousness and sense of self remains completely intact. You're saying to yourself, "Hey Jake, hey David," like I'm like, "Whoa, I'm the same person."
Yeah.
But I am not in the same space that I recognize, which is a very, challenging process as you gain experience in psychedelics, because it is difficult when you make that transition. I still find difficulty when I'm entering the psychedelic space. I know the hallmarks now. I know sort of the telltale signs. I know when I'm getting into the space. I know physically. I can feel it now. So you start to learn when you have a little experience, but we're never going to have enough experience to kind of master this.
Mm.
And that's okay because we're humans. So the limitations that the human experience puts on us are necessary to learn the things that we are meant to learn, that we have set out for ourselves, maybe in a past life. I know we're getting out there on this, but there's so many things that you can't possibly accomplish when you are an all-knowing, just energetic being that is the endless, because there's no suffering there. There's no time. So in order to learn, also you can't learn because you have everything, you are everything. The way to learn is to have amnesia, be born into this body, and completely forget what the game is and what the rules are and what we're supposed to accomplish. So sadly, people are waking up a lot of times miserable, going to a job they hate, waiting for 5 o'clock to come so they can punch out, and then hopefully, have maybe a few moments of levity, get a bite to eat, and then hit the sack and get up and do it all again tomorrow. And I spent some time in my life doing that as well. And now that I know that there's a different way to live, I want other people to know that there are other choices to make. And the first thing people will say is, "That sounds great for you. I love your story, but there's no way for me to get out of that. I'm stuck in this job. I have bills to pay. I have yada, yada, yada." And that's completely true. If you take that limited view, then those are the limited choices you have before you, and you will not break out of it. But to spend your life in endless misery like that is a waste. And that's not what you're here for. And the other part, harkening back to what you said just a minute ago, is people don't realize how powerful they are. They just, because you're born into this body without knowing where you come from. And if you can have some inclination about who you really are, then your subset of choices will change. And the truth is, you can accomplish anything that you want. That this is a playground. It's not immediate. Okay, if it were immediate, it would be easy too. But you can change the vibration around yourself, around your aura, around the people around you, and the universe will respond in kind. And you will get these magic opportunities, these synchronicities that drop out of nowhere. And you just have to be sensitive enough to realize that opportunity is knocking, and you have the choice to make. Do I stay in the comfort zone that I'm not happy with, or do I try to step outside into the unknown, but where opportunity abounds? And this is the choice that everybody has to make in life. And I'm just here to say that there are more choices, and that's what psychedelics have taught me.
And I love that message too. I feel like that I didn't know that when I started the show, but I'm like, that's one thing I want to touch on as much as possible. This idea that you do have a choice because you're sold that script, essentially, the program of you need, you go to school, you do what you did essentially. And
Yes.
how more successful can you be? That's a coveted career, a lawyer, but you go through those steps so
Mhm.
you can make good money and you can have nice things. And if you're real lucky, you can even leave your kids something when you die. Hopefully, you
Yeah.
have your health after you retire. So many of us don't. But I've told my story multiple times on the show, so I don't want to get in it too deeply. But I did the same thing. I had a career in teaching, and I thought that's what I always wanted to do. And after about 8 years, I was coming home to my own kids, and I was just an empty version of myself because I gave everything I had to that in the classroom, and it seemed to be less and less effective, and there was less and less support from, say, parents and administration. And I don't hold anything against the administration because their hands are kind of tied too. But I'm
Mhm.
like, I've got to leave. And I didn't really have a safety net. I'm a painter now. I paint houses. I was painting right before I sat down here. And it's not like that was my passion, but I'm like, that's something I can do. And what it did was it freed up some space for my mind to be able to wander again and see possibilities of what I could
Yeah.
do because I never would have dreamed I'd be working on my own and actually about tripling my income, which is really, it's not like I'm rich or nothing. That's just a statement about how poorly teachers get paid. Um,
Yeah.
but then along those lines, since I knew it was possible to do something that I never thought of, my wife had been mentioning, Jake, the thing you've always been passionate about are these concepts that in spirituality and self-development and, the near-death experience and why we're here and where we're going. That's what you've always been obsessed with. Why don't you find a way to talk about that or teach it? Because I never did want to stop teaching. I just wanted to have some control over what I taught. And so, of course, podcasting became a thing and naturally came up. And at one point, I'm like, why not? How hard could it be? And
Hmm.
it's got its issues, but it is pretty simple when you're passionate about it. And I love that I thought, oh, I still want to teach somehow, but it's even better because I feel more like a facilitator. It's because, like, uh, I teach alongside, say, every guest on the show is another teacher that's going to have a different perspective and different experiences. So that's so much more effective in passing along the curriculum that I wanted than just me being on here repeating the same thing over and over. So yeah, anybody listening, because I've had a couple friends reach out and say, I'm miserable. I really don't know what to do or how to even take the next step. What advice would you give someone like that? Because you've done it. What would you tell someone?
You know, I think the answer is actually a lot simpler than people think. Because if you take that miserable person and you ask them two questions, with yourself quietly. When you sit with yourself, or it's late at night and you wake up, you have a dream, and you know what that is. And if you could identify what is it for me that would give me this passion to wake up in the morning and do every day, that's one thing. And then the second question, the second part to that is, What if you could be guaranteed, if you could be assured that you would be successful at doing that thing? Would you do it? And the answer 100 times out of 100 is yes.
Yeah.
And that's what stops people is the fear of failure. And I don't think failure comes from putting in effort and not achieving the goal. It mostly comes from not starting and taking the steps necessary. So when we talk about things like manifestation, what is often left out is action. The 3D environment of Earth is a place of action. It's a physical material world. So you have to take these thoughts and energies, which thoughts are vibrations, emotions are vibrations. You have to then put them into the physical, and then the physical world around you will change and mirror what you are putting out. So when you say this is a miserable life, and I know today is going to be miserable, and I can guarantee tomorrow is going to be miserable, you're an absolute wonderful, successful manifester. The problem is you're manifesting with unabound confidence the wrong things. And you're a great predictor of bringing about yesterday's pain tomorrow. And it's a very hard thing to get out of. That's why slumps are so difficult because, it's so easy to buy into negativity. But having positive things happen and seeing positive changes out there is a whole other leap. And we're a lot less confident that we can bring those things about. That's also part of the game and the challenge. But people that actually take the steps to say, I'm going to do this little thing today, and I'm going to continue that tomorrow, and I'm going to, even if I don't quit my job today, I'm going to take some steps because I know that thing that I want to do. It might just be a hobby now, but let me take one step. Let me work on the weekend. Let me do something else the next weekend. And if you continue to do it continually, then at a certain point you will realize, wait, I might be able to make that change. I might be able to leave teaching. I might be able to leave law. It takes some courage to do that because the further you get into a career, the harder and harder it gets. You have bills, you have experience, right? You can't just leave and drop out of your life. So there are real world challenges there, but there's no good reason for staying in a situation that doesn't serve you. And I think if you ask most people, you're miserable now, but what is it that you would love to do if you were guaranteed to have success at it? They could tell you fast.
Yeah.
And so then my message is then do that thing. And if you can't overnight do it, then take some steps and change your life, and opportunities will come before you that will give you the chance. Because if you start taking steps, I promise that you'll never have to stop. There will always be room to continue to go down that road as long as you're a willing participant in your own life.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm so glad that you said that because
Mm.
that's the only thing I could think to tell anyone anyway is maybe you can't just quit your job. We have kids, and a lot of times I think a lot of teachers stay there. There's a lot of miserable teachers that stay because they have a pension coming. Well, if you live long enough and if
Yeah.
it's there when you retire, yeah, you'll have that pension. But uh take a step. uh, don't leave your job because if it's going to make you so terrified, you will draw more of those experiences that make you terrified. You'll manifest that. You have to kind of prime yourself, but yeah, do the thing and do it in small increments and just keep going there. And it'll remind you of how that lights you up, how it makes you feel, and you can build momentum towards that thing. Sadly, there's no quick, easy way. And yeah, you bring up manifestation, and I think the secret, not that it did damage, it was good that it came out, but it was probably misleading to a lot of people that, you just sit around and visualize these things and they're going to just pop into your life. Action has to be taken. That's what this realm requires is action. But it isn't as much, I think, as people think it is. And also, yeah, go ahead and push yourself into a space where you have to have some faith. I'm out here in the unknown now. I remember when I left, the day that I finally made the call and said to my administrator, I'm leaving. I'm not just leaving this school district. I'm leaving teaching altogether. And in that night, I was literally on my knees, head down in a recliner, and I didn't know I mean, I was praying. I'm not someone who would pray to God, so to speak. I have a belief in God, but I didn't have a clear definition of God. I don't say he. I'm okay with the word source, but I like the pronoun it. is as far as I'll go with God. So I was praying to it.
Hmm.
But I had this spontaneous prayer come to me, and it was more like a mantra. It was that with you I can do this, with you I can thrive. And I didn't plan on that, and I just said it, and I was saying it over and over. And I've always known, and I think people, if they're being honest with themselves, maybe not everybody, but the people that I know of, you're going to be okay. There might be hard times, but I think there's a part of us that knows we are looked after and cared for, and God, the universe, it wants us. There's a reason that's our calling. It wants us doing that. So you're going to get this help that you might not be able to imagine how it comes, but it's going to come. Do you, what are some of those, if you can remember specifics, when you had synchronicities come to you, can you give any examples that you can pull up that may be examples of that? The serendipitous events.
Well, I mean, so I referred earlier to my coming together with William Henry. I mean,
Hmm.
through my friend who's, now her partner. How did that happen? And I
Yeah.
had been a fan of his and the show for years before we actually met. So it's very difficult to put something like that up to chance.
Yeah.
So, and I've had a number of those things happen, like how I came into Sabonic also. Just these things that seem like that they just might be sheer chance, because you can look at it that way, right? If you choose to. But if
Hmm.
you take another perspective and say that, well, these things may be just, I'm blessed to have this opportunity, and I feel gratitude. That's where it really all starts. Then the universe will continue to reward you with these opportunities, because you stop actually looking outside for external validation and answers, and look within yourself and know that you are the entirety of the universe, that the whole of the universe is contained within you, and that you, as this small little being, on the one sense, that's the illusion. That the truth is, you are God, you are source, you are the universe. We all are. So when you're taking the subway, as I did often in New York City, and you feel like you're one of a billion people, that is the game. It's the not knowing that we all come from the same source. And then I had a mushroom experience where I met my spirit team. We
Really?
all have a team. We have, I don't know if they're angels, as some people refer to them, or guardians. Um, there's just so many different, schools of thought on this. But I know that we have entities. Maybe they were former family members. I don't really know, and I never was able to identify exactly who they are. Okay, but I know that they were my team, and I was able to feel them watching over me. So I have taken that experience, knowing whatever problems are going on, if I'm having a bad day or whatever else, I can just look up and say, I know people, they're there with me right now. They never leave 24/7. And just knowing that you are not alone in this journey of life is so powerful. Of course, if you're lucky, you have family and friends. But on top of that, knowing that there is a source, that the universe is out there for you, and that things that we said before, oh, are these really bad things, or are they just opportunities to learn things? We experience them as maybe difficult and painful, but maybe this is the key, that is this experience that you have to overcome, which will then set you on the path to unbelievable happiness.
Yeah.
So you have to be open to that things are happening for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And I think it's that perspective that will carry people a very long way.
It truly is a choice. And I think once to look at things that way, that, and that's a big one, that things are happening for you and not to you. And that's a constant. The thing with psychedelics is, and you seem to be getting all the bang for your buck. You got to experience your spirit team,
Yeah.
but that's great. I'd love to hear more about it. But the thing, um, that you'll always have to do, because you can have these profound experiences where you actually experience something like you're saying, that we are all a part of God. We all are connected to everything in the universe. And in a psychedelic experience, if you're lucky enough, I say, you can actually experience it. I mean, you can be a person who believes that that's true, but, and I'm one of them, I'm like, I don't really feel that. I feel it intuitively, but I've never had a point blank experience of it like I know that you can have on certain plant medicines. I've had some profound mushroom experiences as well, but I don't think I would say I would define them as that type of experience. But even when you have those, you have to come back to life, come back to the physical, and day to day make the choice to look at things as being that way, to look at experience. I just drove through Chicago 2 days ago, and I'm from a very rural area. I the nearest village to me has 1,500 people, and I don't even live in
Oh,
that. I'm living in the middle of the cornfields, so I don't wait on traffic anywhere. So for me to navigate Chicago was stressful enough. It was pretty busy, and I had missed an exit route. Um, because I was using the phone and it just didn't represent the route clearly, so I missed it, and that cost me an hour just like that. We were already running late, but I had to do this loop around, and I had multiple times where I'm trying to merge back into traffic. People were screaming at me. I couldn't hear them, but I could see them because we were, a few feet apart. And
yeah,
I was using all the tools that I had, and I was actually thankful for the experience. I'm like, okay, let's apply these things. This idea of radical acceptance that no matter what's going on, it's happening for you and not to you. This is an opportunity for me to practice patience, to practice compassion. That lady that's screaming at me right now, this cannot be the only reason she's screaming at me right now. This has nothing to do with me. How many days in a row has she, or does she drive in this traffic every day? I have my
yeah,
perspective on the city. I like going to it because I'm like, I could just never do this. I mean, I'm in big sky country, not Montana, but the middle of Illinois is wide open. But it amazes me that people do it every day. And I understand that if you're from there and you've always done it, that's just normal life. Um, and they would never want to come here. Like, what are you going to do there? And I get that too. But uh, yeah, it was a perfect experience. And here's how I take it as it was for me. It was an opportunity for me to practice the things that I think are important as a human being and see the power in them because I didn't really get stressed out at all. When we were finally, my son was in the back seat. He had to go pee for about an hour. He's only 7, and he could not understand why we couldn't pull over because where we live, you just go in the yard, you pull over on a country road, do whatever you want. He couldn't get that there were barricades on both sides. We cannot pull over. We're trapped. And I felt imprisoned. Cities are very suffocating to me, the big ones. And but I'm like, I like going because it's a great opportunity to look at things from a different perspective and feel that. But I guess my point was, regardless of how profound an experience you have on plant medicine, and again, anybody listening, if you feel called to do it, I feel that they are a great way shower, that like, they point the way. Like, here's a way you could go. You're going to have to go down the path on your own from here, but here's a tool for you. Here's a path. Take it and use it and go down the path. Go forward. And right now, I feel like I'm in a part with my plant medicine journey that I'm not ready to go back yet. I'm still integrating all the things that I got from it.
yeah.
And at some point, I will, and then I'll come back to life and keep moving on.
Yeah, it's all about the timing. There was 4 years from my first ayahuasca experience to my second, and so it's not linear, and it's not like more medicine will, I had such a great experience, let me go back more because more is better. Not necessarily the case. And you are right, there are many different modalities. And achieving this kind of consciousness exploration is not limited to psychedelics. There's all kinds of meditation practices that people do. Now there's somatic healing traditions that you can use, EMDR, all kinds of light therapy. There are different ways and for different people that will match an individual where they can experience these things on their own. Certainly, I don't recommend psychedelics. It's for people that are called. And then if
Yes.
you are called, which is a growing group of people, then that's what I'm here to do. I'm not really here to sell it. It's not right for everyone. It's not meant for everyone, but it is meant for this, now growing number of people. And it is a very sort of easy way to kind of get these profound experiences where you might not have to just hunker down in a mountain as a monk for 30 years in silence and figure out how to meditate. So not that it's a shortcut or that you get these shortcuts every time, but certainly they've been just very effective at helping people to see the way and then being able to make those decisions. These are not recreational experiences. They're not fun experiences. I don't look forward to going into ayahuasca. Mushroom journeys are so powerful, and I get anxiety before I'm going to do one because I know what I'm about to enter into. And it takes a toll on me, and I'm not an anxious person at all. But the transition into that state of consciousness is very trying on the human body and on the ego, because the ego does not want any change. The ego likes the status quo, which is another reason why people don't break out of these cycles, is because the ego likes it. And even if you're experience ongoing trauma and pain, which I have experienced, as I've said, it's hard to break that cycle because you kind of cling to what's familiar. Even if that's pain, it's what you know. And the body, the ego does not like change. So when you start to get into this process and you feel these differences coming on, your first reaction is, wait, I don't like this because this is not normal, right? And and that's a perfectly okay and valid feeling. It happens to me all the time, and I don't think that's going to go away because we are human. So we're not meant to break out of this human existence, the human condition. We're meant to improve it, right? So it's, where can I go to have this experience? What can I learn and take back so that I can come back to my day-to-day grind of life, but do so in a more positive way, where I have a more positive and better outlook on things, and then try to implement these lessons I've learned and changes, because 99% of the time you're in the regular Monday through Friday. And
Yeah.
so, how do you improve that and make yourself and everyone around you happier at the same time? That's all that it's about. Life is not that complicated.
Right. It is us, it's the ego. And that's been coming up a lot. And of course, in miracles, it's really the crux of it is there's the ego and what the Course calls, of course, the Holy Spirit, which would be your bridge to your connection to God. And I had it, I guess one of the most profound realizations I had in my ayahuasca experience. Now, I didn't see anything
Mhm.
in mine. And I was kind of, I was very curious. I listened to Terrence McKenna talk about it, 20 years ago. And ever since then, I'm like, I have to know what that is actually like. And I was expecting visuals because I had done mushrooms before, I had done LSD before, and it was extremely interesting. And at that time, fun because I didn't have children. I was the only person I was thinking of. So there was no, what if this happens?
Right,
Thought
right,
running through my mind like it is now when you have kids. But
right.
it did show me, amongst other things, ayahuasca, that what our minds, our ego, our egoic mind, all it is ever doing is looking for comfort all the time, no matter what. And that comfort can just come from, even though it's comfort that it can be uncomfortable. Your comfort zone can be a place of misery. It's always looking for comfort, but because the whole time I was on it, it's like that's all I cared about. This sickness, I needed to go away, and but it just hits a little differently there. And even now that I'm not on ayahuasca anymore, that stayed with me, and the truth of it is with me, and that's all it's ever going to be doing is scanning the horizon for what's going to make me comfortable. And a lot of time, and that gets so distorted that now you have this, these billionaire hoarders who just need more, 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 more at the expense of basically the world and everyone else. The idea of what makes them comfortable is that distorted, and that's what you see going on with the world today.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
we're trying to, I guess, steer away from the
Yeah,
consequence.
it's a big contrast because, again, and my message, if you hear me from one aspect, it's about peace and love and unity, and we're all the same, and let's look out for your brother because he is you or she is you, and so there's all that. But you might conclude from that I'd be coming from a place of where everything should be free, and there
Mhm.
should be no right, there should be no money, and everybody should have everything, and that's not what I'm saying at all, right? It's this is a physical world again, and we have to figure out how to navigate that, and doing well in this physical world should not be something to be frowned upon. You know,
Right.
physical success, material attainment, these are all very good and positive things. Now, they're very limited too in a lot of ways. So it's all about a balance. So I can't go out and work hard and then have everything taken from me to give to someone else who decides they just want to sit back and do nothing. Okay? That's not fair. That's not how the world should work. So how do you reconcile these things? And I think there's growing up, I went to a Quaker school, which were back in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Um, the Quakers was all about community service and service of others. Was what's kind of ran through the core of the curriculum. But Quakers also did very well financially in a lot of business endeavors. So what I took from that and have been able to use in my life, although I'm not a Quaker, um, is that you can do good and do well.
Right.
And it's always striking that delicate balance, because that's what life is, always this balance. And so we have to live in this material physical world, take all that we can out of it. We can have wonderful physical experiences, and we can buy really cool things, and those are great. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be on your deathbed and say, where are those things that I bought? And I really wish I had them around my bed right now. No, you don't. You're going to say, where is my family? Where are the people? What are the memories that we had together? Because those are the things that are everlasting. These material things have very limited value. Enjoy them. I love material things. Nothing wrong with that. But put them into perspective, because this is a fleeting lifetime, and you
Yeah.
can't take any of these things with you. But you are an unbounded soul, and you likely, in my mind, have done this innumerable times, and probably will come back who knows how many times to figure out this school of life. So in and of itself, this life experience is just one of so many. So relax. It's not that important. You're not missing anything. You'll come back in another lifetime. You'll be able to figure that thing out. It's okay. You don't have to figure it all out at once. That can take the pressure off people for trying to having to accomplish this and that and everything in this finite amount of time. We're unbounded, so there's no rush and there's no race. And certainly there shouldn't be a comparison between you and somebody else, because that's another part of the illusion. You are in a race of one with yourself, just trying to improve. And where you end up getting, how much money you end up getting, and the things you accumulate in life are completely irrelevant. If you are just dedicated to improving yourself, then that's all that life is about. What are those things? And you're going to continually get it wrong. I've had many experiences, and I continue to get these things wrong. Some of the things that I've gotten wrong from the beginning. So what has all this done for me? Well, it's done this for me. It has given me the understanding that I don't have to judge myself, number one. As long as I can realize now, and I have better tools to realize this is a thing I need to improve on, let me acknowledge that, and now let me pull out one of the tools I have gained, and let me apply that to see if I can improve this position. And let me try to take that negative thing about myself, and let me try to do that less. And when I realize I'm doing it, let me get out of it faster than I did last time. And it's all about improvement. That's really all that there is. And if you can do that, then you're always where you're supposed to be. That's the thing. Where you are right now is divinely orchestrated for you as the individual to be where you need to be right now. But you can now make a choice, because you are not tethered to yesterday. It seems like you are, because there's a lot of baggage, but you can be a new person today and tomorrow. Those changes may not be visible right away, but you are a new person. And if you continue to identify as, hey, I'm not going to do that thing anymore, I'm going to do this positively, and I'm going to continue to do that, then you'll start to see changes that happen imperceptibly over time, and the universe will then reorchestrate itself around you. And that's the purpose.
Yeah. Well,
So,
before we go, does Sabonic your company facilitate plant medicine journeys for anybody who may be feeling called or interested in that?
So we are setting up our first experience now. So I'm working with William and Billy Carson, and between them, they've got huge followings. Ancient Aliens has millions of fans, and so we're reaching out to that subset of people that want to take these journeys. And of course, you don't have to be a fan or know anything about these. You can reach out to us at the same time. We're setting up right now Costa Rica because it's a wonderful spiritual place where the laws are favorable. And we're looking to cater at first to an all-inclusive kind of five-star resort. We're going to be releasing that information shortly. We're booking the dates now. We're looking right now into January, February for our first excursion. But at the same time, I'm setting up other destinations, maybe also in Costa Rica to some extent. Mexico is also available to us, where it's less costly, so it could be open to people, more people, just a greater group of people, so that I could open this experience to others. And we're also looking to include some spots at no cost to people that really need the medicine but can't afford it. So that's my contribution to service at the same time. So you could send us an email through Starwalker Cafe if you're interested in going with us. But you can do research and find these opportunities within the U.S., certainly, in your home state that you might not even be aware exist right now. But these things are proliferating by people who are learned in the medicine, who are able to offer it very safely. And that's one thing I'd like people to know is that you can take, if it's ayahuasca, you'll probably, if you find someone who's serving it, they more likely than not have been trained in the shamanic practices, maybe spent years in some cases in South America, in Peru or Costa Rica or somewhere like that, and are here to offer a very safe experience. And you could have that at very low cost. So if you're into investigating this, the opportunity is out there for you.
Yeah. And because that's what mine, there's another story of serendipity, how I met the woman who hosts the space for a medicine server to come and facilitate
Yeah,
an ayahuasca journey there. And so, yeah, those who feel called and don't know how to get to a journey, or they think that it's too expensive for more of the higher end resorts, it'll find you. It really will. Like you said, a strange thing about it is when you agree to the ceremony, even if it's months beforehand, you feel like you've already entered the space, like the spirit of ayahuasca already in some manner enters you. I felt it. I
oh yeah,
don't even know how else to put it into words, but it's once you commit to it, you're already in. And it truly is, if you're called, an amazing and worthwhile experience. So,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
you will realize through any of these that if you have the chance to have a psychedelic journey, you may have one where you will come back and realize that your understanding of who you are and your human limitation is just not what you thought, and your life will be forever changed.
All right. Well, David, this has been amazing. I'm so glad you reached out to me. What is, to sum yourself up, to sum up the show and you and your message, what
Yeah.
is, if there's one message you want the world to hear from you, what would that be?
I think in general, there's two things. I have two basic observations. One is the only thing that matters in our existence and the only thing that is truly real beyond the illusion is love. That is it. That is the one singular emotion that is truly timeless and that permeates everything that is living. And if you can go about life every day with gratitude and find something about your day, even if you're having the worst of it, that you can love. Because I bet you have a friend or a family member or a dog, whatever that is, you will find love somewhere in your life if you look for it. I encourage everyone to find out what that is for them and to key in on that at some point every day. And the other thing related to that is, although we go about this life thinking that we are this meaningless drop in the ocean, we have to realize that like the Yogananda said, and I may butcher the quote, but it's the illusion that you are the meaningless drop in the ocean. In fact, you are the whole ocean, veiled by the waves of mortal identity.
Yeah.
And it's the illusion that I'm just this one person among 8 billion people and I'm in it by myself. And it's just not so. We're all connected. You have a team out there. You are loved. And if you want to take the effort to find your path, if you're not on the path now, you can do it and nothing is stopping you.
Well, amen to that. Thank you. If people want to reach out to you, maybe they have podcasts of their own, how would they contact you?
Yeah, I mean, if my main content is on YouTube, some of the long form. I'm on TikTok and Instagram a little bit, but you can reach out for me directly through the Meru Sky, or you can reach out through that. That's the easiest way if you want to talk to me because I respond to everybody and people inquiring about experiences. I'm very happy to get on with you personally and answer any questions that you might have regarding any of my content or even anything unrelated about psychedelics or anything that this is all about. I'm eager for people to inquire so that I can help get the message out. So I'm there for you.
Okay. And the Meru Sky, is that your YouTube channel?
Yes,
Okay. And that's
yes.
Merusky, just like your last name, but with a
It's
U added to it.
that's a very interesting story behind that. Maybe we'll get into another time. But yes, yeah, that's exactly right, and a very astute observation.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best in all of your goals. I wish you the best with Sabonic and everything that you're working on and trying to help the collective wake up. So thank you again
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Alrighty. Take care.